What does that do?
So I can sync up all the cameras.
I always pissed off Wade. He always like claps to try and I just start clapping randomly and fuck up his audio. Andre Bondar, how the hell are you?
I'm well, thank you, Tom.
This is a much nicer setting than our usual. Sorry, I need to adjust. We're not looking at each other. This is super awkward. There you go. That's nice. Andre Bondar, how the hell are you?
I'm really well, thank you, Tom.
This is a much nicer spot for a chat and a glass of wine than our usual location back at Different Drop headquarters, which would be sweltering in that little
I bet.
shoebox that we do our videos in.
Yeah.
Aside from just coming up and drinking a glass of rosé, what's been going on, mate? Vintage?
Yeah, vintage. You guys have caught me smack bang in the middle of it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. Actually, surprisingly enough, it's almost done. So what are we, March the 11th, and we're almost done.
Well, I appreciated earlier today, you said, look, Tom, if you don't mind just extending your lunch at the Salopian Inn and coming a bit later because I've got some work to do. And we said, we can do that for you, Andre.
Yeah, indeed.
So, mate, we're sitting in the middle of your beautiful Rayner Vineyard, the home of Bondar Wines.
Yep.
Got a bit of Shiraz behind us. We've got Greek Grenache, I think is how you pronounce it. Grenache down
Grenache
here.
over there. Yeah.
You got Cinsault over there somewhere. You've got more Shiraz at the back. So what an incredible site. Tell us a little bit about this special place and what brought you here.
Sure. So, 11 years ago now, we bought this vineyard with the thought of having a home for our brand, which we feel is extremely important. And it was a vineyard that had a little bit of great history of being made into great wine by several people, but most notably Brokenwood. So we were attracted to that, but mostly we were attracted to this, the soil type. So it's this sandy Blewitt sands soil. And it tends to make red wines that are a little bit more pared back, a little bit more elegant, I suppose, for the region. And where we're right here, we're sitting on top of this sandhill and looking back into Blewitt Springs. So, this is quite a different part of the region than a lot of the region, having this beautiful sandy soil. And when we bought the vineyard, it had a lot of Shiraz planted, which is great, and it makes beautiful Shiraz, but it's also a fantastic Grenache site, or Grenache site.
Grenache. And thank you for the correct pronunciation of Shiraz as well.
No problem.
Did you learn that one from your friend Alex Shiraz?
I don't know how to say his last name. I just don't say it because I'm worried I'll get it wrong.
It's not Shiraz.
Exactly. I think it might be Sarah.
Sarah. Poor Alex.
Yeah.
Alex Serra.
Yeah.
Alex Shiraz.
Something like that.
Mate, the sands, it's amazing, isn't it? Because, I mean, if you just look down the bottom of this hill, over here towards Seaview, where, you're in kind of Shiraz Cabernet territory, and then you just start to go up this hill and then onwards, obviously, and it's all this beautiful, fragrant Grenache. And I've got to say as well, beautiful, supple, medium weight Shiraz as well.
Yeah.
And it's just that the unique soils that you have here combined, I guess, with that altitude that make it so special, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, we sit atop a hill here, and it is a very tall hill for this area, and really it doesn't start getting much taller until you hit like deep Blewitt Springs. So here we're about 100 metres above sea level, and it's really the start of that Blewitt Springs sub-region. And you're right, it's that combination of that little bit of altitude with this beautiful soil that we get these amazingly fragrant wines. I think the soil is a lot though, it does give that fragrance and that more elegant style, which for us was really attractive.
Before we get too geeky about the soil, because I want to talk to you more about that, but the rosé.
Yeah.
Like, this is like basically all I drink all summer at home. I've bought cases of this stuff. I just love it.
Yeah.
So this is all, what's the blend in 2024?
So it's mostly Grenache.
Yep.
Luckily it's right in front of me. Apologies. It's right in front of me. I can see it, thankfully.
It's roughly 92% Grenache and 5% Cinsault, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm just picking up a splash of like 3% Mataro, actually.
That's Conway.
The Conway's just down there, actually. We can go. It's not picked yet. We can go have a look. 92% Grenache. And this is all from the property now. Like when we originally moved here, there wasn't enough Grenache to make this rosé. But the first ones did come from the original block of Grenache down there. But since it's got a bit bigger, we've planted a lot of young vine stuff. But it's worked out really well. So that tends to be really, beautiful fruit flavours, but quite delicate and lean. And then we have 5% Cinsault. Cinsault is also on the property. Cinsault is the opposite. Like Grenache rosé, you pick early. It's really lean and mean. It's not quite ripe yet, almost. Yeah. And then Cinsault, we basically only just picked the Cinsault for the rosé, so it's one of the last things we picked.
Right.
But it's only like 10.5 BOMA, so 10.5% essential alcohol, and that gives you a lot of flavour, a lot of roundness. The Mataro is just next to us here. That's bush vines, which one day will make great dry red. Yeah. But at the moment makes beautiful rosé actually. It's very wild. Very wild.
Bought the Mataro.
Yeah, exactly. It's very wild and it's aromatic and it's also a really.
So even just that 3% just really gives it that.
Yeah, it's very wild and it's aromatic.
Probably
very...
a bit of structure too, which I always like. This wine. It's so delicate, but then does have that little gentle, savoury type of structure too.
And I think, to be honest, and this is always my way with this wine, is it almost looks best now. It looks best in the heat of summer, in the heart of summer. Yeah. Like it's bottled and ready for a spring release, but like in reality, it needs probably another 6 months and then it really starts hitting its strap. So
how does it feel for all the beautiful, serious, highly rated, red wines that you make, for your best and most important wine to be the rosé?
Whatever, man. Rosé is cool.
Rosé is super cool.
Rosé is very versatile. Like you said, like if you want to drink, you get home. It's got some structure, so you just want to have a nice glass of wine. It's Chardonnay or rosé.
It makes sense here. Like we're 10 minutes from the beach, the water's just there.
Yeah.
It's a warm place.
Yep.
Same as where we come from in the beautiful northern beaches of Sydney.
Yeah, it works well there.
Works very well. I gotta say.
Well there.
No, beautiful drink. You mentioned Chardonnay. I'm gonna guzzle that. Mm-hmm. And smash the glass as well. You mentioned Chardonnay. Bit of a passion project for you, right? This obviously doesn't come from McLaren Vale here, but I know you're a big Chardonnay fan.
Yeah, I love the grape. It's probably my favourite to drink and to make, which is pretty ironic that I own a McLaren Vale vineyard that's full of red grapes. But I think it speaks a bit to like my history. Like I made wine in the hills, which is not far, and this vineyard's only 30-minute drive from here.
Yeah.
Just this side of Harndorf, beautiful cold site. A site that I've always thought is fantastic called Rathbone Vineyard. So even when I was making wine in the hills, I used to make Chardonnay and Shiraz from this site. And when we started Bondar, at the very beginning, we always made this wine.
Yeah.
And so we bought this vineyard, but the Chardonnay remained. The style, I think, is pretty true to our style. So there's a freshness, a brightness. But then, this vineyard has power, so it can handle a bit of oak and a bit of lees work. And look, we use very Burgundian techniques. It doesn't look Burgundian; it looks like Adelaide Hills, but it's very hands-off winemaking, but with care and knowledge of how to do.
Beautiful Chardonnay, one of our favourites from the hills, and I wish there was more of it. It was one of those.
Yeah, that vineyard is like I always try and get more. But it's a bit limited in how much fruit there is. So I share with the guy who grows it, and he's a great grape grower. So he gives me half, and I take the other half.
You mentioned how you had this one at the very beginning, along with the Shiraz. And what was it like in the early days when you and Selina were starting out? It was fun. I love asking the small producers who have gone on this journey. I can't imagine buying a property and building a winery and trying to build a brand.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work. It's still a lot of hard work, but it's different hard work now. It was fun. I would say it was a lot of fun. I recall it as being a lot of fun. Things just seemed to work for us. I think our timing was good. The wine style seemed to resonate. The price point seemed to work, and we went on a pretty good upward trajectory. And now it's more about consolidating, I think, rather than just keeping on growing.
That's what a great position to be in.
Yeah.
Has much changed in how you approach the winemaking over the years?
Always. Yeah, always. And I think, that's about, being in the wine and talking and drinking with people who are knowledgeable, and I'm always got my ears open. But then there's people who work for me, and they always have an influence, and you listen to them, and like it's never set. it's constantly evolving, which is fun. Yeah, it's fun. It keeps it interesting, I think. Yeah.
Do you want to take the Chardonnay project further? Like, do you think about looking at other vineyards or more kind of premium releases? I feel like you got such a knack for Chardonnay, and this wine, represents such amazing value, and we can talk about that, across all the Bondar wines. But I don't know. I see you exploring all of these vineyards around McLaren Vale. I wonder if there's a Hills Chardonnay project there.
Funny you should mention that.
Oh, God.
You didn't know.
What
about
a coincidence!
You didn't know about this, but
No.
we actually do have we're working on a top range of wines, which is like a cru range of wines, and there is a Chardonnay in the mix.
Yeah, right.
In that range, but on top of that. Luckily enough, I got to go to Burgundy last year and I spent a good amount of time there with good producers. And I just came back and I thought, I just love this grape. Why don't I make more?
Yeah.
And so we're building a big cold room in the shed down there, and we're going to extend our Chardonnay program. Yeah, I don't know what that would look like necessarily. I love this idea of keeping Rathbone because it's part of our history. I can't really get more fruit from there. So
has Rathbone always been the same vineyard?
It's always been the same vineyard since the beginning. Yeah. So. Since 2013, we've made Rathbone Chardonnay. We do, and then in terms of keeping me interested, but also I think that it's just what I'm passionate about. So, I think we're going to extend the program. What that looks like, I'm not sure exactly. We will have that top one, but whether it means there's something else in and around Rathbone as well, or whether I don't know what it looks like, but there'll be more Chardonnay.
And we don't have it here today, but the other great white hope of McLaren Vale, the Fiano, is a nice counterpoint to this.
I think so. We make Fiano, and we also have a Nero. But to me, Fiano, we've actually grafted some vines just down here to Fiano. I actually think Fiano is an excellent white grape for this region, and so. Chardonnay makes the world's best wines, arguably. Fiano maybe doesn't, but it makes beautiful, fresh, acidic, textured wine. And for our region, it's amazing to have that capacity. There's some other grapes like Shannon that can do that, but they're off old vines, in Blewitt. It's pretty rare to find them. But I think Fiano is a bit more versatile. So I'm on the Fiano train, and I think, I'll plant more here. It took me a while to sort of, get really excited about it, but I just think it just holds its acid so well. It has natural texture.
Oh, I think you've nailed the style. Like it's got that texture, but the thumbprint, I think, in like all of your wines is that just drinkability and approachability.
It's always been important. Yeah.
How do you like to think about the value in the wines? Because like you look around here, some of your pretty famous neighbours and some pretty expensive wines in the heart of McLaren Vale, and I think your wines have always massively over-delivered. No matter what the price point, even the premium wines I think over-deliver for their price, and I think that's been pretty big to your success. Like how do you approach value?
Well, I think like when we first had a wine brand, when we first started the wine brand, it was all about value. We thought we want to be good value. We want people to love our wines and think that they're great value. And I think that's just continued. So as we've got confidence to make more and more expensive wine or better wine, that's continued that thread where we're like, you know what, this wine is worth X to us. And I think that that's fair. So it's always been an important part of our story. Maybe we could have got more money, but to us, that's part of Bondar Wines. Is it offers great value.
I feel like getting to know you over the years, like you just want to try and keep things pretty simple and easy as well. And with the wines, like looking after themselves and being such an easy sell, really, no matter where you're selling the wines, it just keeps things simple. You're not sitting there going, we're going to try and go get $50 for this Chardonnay, which you probably could. It's probably worth it.
Yeah.
But hey, it's $38-40 and it just flies and it's just easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. I did as we were preparing to launch Bondar. I did do a bit of work in that sphere, that world of sales, basically, and I
It's no fun.
It's not, and I'm terrible at it. I'm like it's not my jam. It's not one of my skills. But I think I really began to understood, like price points and positions and where wines should sit in terms of how they taste. And I think the important thing with like a wine like that, you're right, like because that is beautiful and fresh, but it still has nice tricks to it. It's got a serious savoury side. Similar to this one, we probably could get more money for it, but I think particularly with that Violet Hour Junto Rosé thread, those wines are perfect for where they sit price-wise. So yeah, just make them excellent for that price.
Yeah, no, I love it, mate. Well, this was the wine that I really fell in love with, Bondar. So we were talking with the guys earlier. So the very first time we got samples from you, and Selina, a long, long time ago, probably over a decade ago, and it was this wine, the Rayner Grenache, that I was like, holy shit, that's just amazing, and that's just exactly the type of Grenache that excites me, and obviously a lot of the wine drinking public as well, because it's just so bright and fragrant, and that comes from this amazing spot.
Yep. So this has always come from the old block, which is down the hill a little bit. So we're just starting to get into some loamy sand.
Yeah.
So it does have some generosity, Rayner, often, but I try and pick it early so it has that lighter feel. And a bit of savoury quality.
23.
It's 23, which is
beautiful.
Looking great right now. Again, often we bottle our wines and you probably need a few months for them to settle. And by now they're singing, this is the end of its, life as a sales thing.
Yeah.
But so I think that looks fantastic. And that's, so that they're 1970, so they're not super old, but they're old. They're proper old, and it's all dry grown, it's all organic practices. We're not certified, but there's no undervine spray. That would be the only thing. All dry grown, and it's just for that one. It's very cool, this one, because it was about working out where in the vineyard we can make great wine from, and that's the beauty of owning your own vineyard. Is you walk it daily, weekly, whatever time of year it is, and you really get to know it and see where bits are that will make a certain wine style. And for me, I was always aiming for this, this bright, fresh, lithe, savoury, but that beautiful high-toned fruit still. And that gives me the perfect material. So I've got young vines now. There's some bush vines just over here. They're 10 now. There's young trellis stuff just next to the old vine Grenache. That's really starting to show. So I'm excited for this wine potentially to become a bit bigger.
Yeah, exciting.
We can make a little bit more with those plantings that are now approaching 10.
And have you seen the popularity of this wine and this style grow over the length of time, Bondar?
Absolutely. I think when we first put it was the 15 to bottle. The world of Blewitt Springs had not been unlocked.
No,
I don't think it had been unlocked. I think there were some wines I think an 11 Yangara, Old Vine Grenache maybe, was incredible, but that year was one out the box, right? They were very cold and wet year, so it presented this beautiful medium-bodied, and I think it was just being unlocked in 15, and then what would come is now amazing. People realise that if you make it with this more medium-bodied sensibility, it's truly a unique and world-class wine.
Do you label this wine or kind of promote this wine as Blewitt Springs, or is it more talking about McLaren Vale?
I think we got to be a little careful because there is no official border.
Yeah,
we're closer to Blewitt Springs. The little we're fairly close to the Blewitt Springs hall here. But to me, true Blewitt is that right up at 250 metres, right? That's true Blewitt. Here we're on the Blewitt Sands, definitely, and it's the start of Blewitt Springs, more or less. But I'm a bit careful. Because I think it's important to make the distinction.
Yeah.
But it is basically the same soil type, and it's the start of we're at the beginning of it all.
It's a hard one though, because we've spoken to some people over the last couple of days about sub-regionality in McLaren Vale, and it's really interesting. And there's distinct sub-regions, but to the market, is that just getting too geeky too soon? Do we just need to kind of sell McLaren Vale and just understand this more broad regionality first, or can you do both at once? What do you think?
Honestly, I think it's super important to talk about, because I think one problem sometimes we have in market is if you say it's all McLaren Vale and that's all that matters, people don't know what they're getting, A, and B, there's no differentiation on quality, right? So, to me, I think it's a really super important thing to talk about, and I think the more we talk about it, the more we'll be taken seriously, and we've been taken very seriously now as Grenache producers on this soil type, and in where it depends where they officially draw the boundary. I mean, it's probably in, but some may argue we're the other side of the boundary, but it's right on the boundary. So like the Blewitt sands, we're definitely in that. That's like that's an official.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like beach sand. It's an official area that's been delineated by the committee that do it within McLaren Vale. But whether or not that called Blewitt Springs is another question. But like, I think that for us to talk about that is really important to make the idea of this being a premium product to the world, take that to the world, like talk about Blewitt Springs, don't talk about McLaren Vale in this sense. Blewitt Springs, McLaren Vale makes sense, but just call it McLaren Vale Grenache, and no, I think it's less interesting, it's less meaningful. Yeah, I think it's way more meaningful and to call it to talk about Blewitt Springs.
Yeah, fascinating. Oh, cool. That's interesting that you take. I tend to agree, but yeah, it's always hard to know, how far ahead of the curve you can get and to the market and trying to keep things relevant. But I think sometimes you can't dumb it down either. Wine's about that magic and the detail. And
we all love Burgundy, right? And that's the ultimate example. But like I think that they've convinced the world how good they are because of that. Yeah. Right? And these wines are incredible in the world. Like they're unique. I think they're unique even to Australia and the world. And then we can't just talk about it being from McLaren Vale. We need to talk about it being from Blewitt Springs.
So what do you get more pleasure out of making and taking to the world, Grenache or Shiraz? Because you have such a history with Shiraz, with the Violet Hour and then the Rayner Shiraz, this vineyard, these Shiraz vines have such a history. Yeah. We'll taste another Shiraz in a second. Yeah. But then you've got this compelling Grenache narrative as well. What excites you most?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think that
or is it Mataro? Is it Nero Devila?
It's neither of those, but
Monastery.
I think like Shiraz, when it's done well, can be one of the greatest grapes in the world, right? And a lot of the time here, it's not the right conditions or the right soil or the right place for that to happen. The right vintages, some magic can happen.
That here, as in on this property.
Even at Rayner, even at Rayner. I'm talking like truly world class. Yeah. Right. It always makes great Shiraz, beautiful. Really. Vibrant, more medium bodied like we've discussed, beautiful fruit, beautiful aromatics. But Grenache is the one that has the ability to be world class. Yeah. And to be interesting and to be unique, So in that sense, I get more excited about Grenache because I think the potential for that is, especially on this site and this soil type, is to make something that the world would stand up and notice, whereas I don't think quite the Shiraz is there. Like it makes beautiful Shiraz and we've got our best blocks and our favourite blocks, but it possibly taps out at those. The Rayner Shiraz is fantastic, comes from the old, the 1950 planting just over the hill here. And then a little bit from right down the bottom, which isn't on sand, which is our Midnight Hour block, which is another little Shiraz we make with whole bunches. So it's a blend of those, but it's mostly off this sand. Beautiful. Probably a more traditional style, the most traditional style wine I make, probably. But I do think it, to me, it caps out there at Rayner, and it was one of the reasons we come to this wine perfectly, because one of the reasons I wanted to make these Hope Springs Eternal wines, which is like the next level up for us, which isn't from our vineyard, It's from great sites in McLaren Vale and Adelaide Hills potentially with Chardonnay. And these wines are like cru wines, you know.
Yeah.
So we have our vineyard that sits and it has potential to make great cru Grenache, I think.
Yeah.
Great, just under Shiraz, but beautiful high-end Shiraz, but not incredible, mind-blowing, like world-changing Shiraz.
Well, we're talking about sub-regionality. So this wine is one that probably people wouldn't know as well from Bondar. It's a more recent addition. This is a single site Shiraz from Clarendon, from the Hickenbotham Vineyard.
Yeah.
Yep. So talk about sub-regionality. Explain where Clarendon is and why you think this block is special.
Sure. So Clarendon is, it's like, you know it's almost like hills, right?
Yeah.
You don't feel like McLaren Vale, you always get that sense like this is kind of an ocean breeze.
Yeah.
And it feels very beachy. It's much further inland.
I know it. We're staying in Clarendon, and it was chilly this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
I wore long pants. Then we come down to the beach. It's like
exactly.
The boardies.
Yeah, very hilly, like very steep hills. You know, you're talking a lot more altitude, so that makes a big difference with temperature. Very different soil. It's a lot of red clay, ferrous kind of red clays, and iron in there, and so you get this Shiraz. It's a bit more elegant because it's grown in a cooler place.
Yeah.
It's the Higginbotham site's a beautiful site. Like it's so this is one of the trellised old Shirazes that's completely dry grown, and I think, you know, with Hope Springs Eternal, it was about finding like greatness in this variety. That's how it all started. And then I've also got Trot Grenache, which I've taken for a few years, but under this guise, you know, that's right up in the heart of Blewitt, what I was talking about before. You know, that's 210-ish metres. But yeah, Clarendon's 250. So you're getting right up to the base of the Adelaide Hills. Yeah. And you get a much different expression of the variety. A lot of gum trees. It just feels different, you know. It doesn't feel like here. Here there's like, you know, in Blewitt, we get a lot of yakka. There's a lot of like small bushes, and it just feels different, you know, down here. It feels beachy. Yeah. Whereas up there, you feel like you're part of the hills. Yeah. More eucalypts and I think with Shiraz, it's going to give you something that's a bit leaner, really spicy if picked well. But also the thing with Hope Springs Eternal is we use a lot of bunch. So yeah, right. That wine is probably 80% whole bunch.
So yeah, beautiful aromatics, nice long structure. Yeah, gorgeous, and exciting to see like the brand continue to evolve with all these cuvées and new things you're doing and experiments. What does what does the future hold for Bondar Wines? Is it more of the same or? Shut up, Wade. You fucking come ask the questions.
You know, it's funny because like I would say that we're trying to do less, but we end up doing more. Yeah. But I think we're focusing on what we do well. Yeah. Not trying to grow the portfolio to almost like, you know, because we have played and dabbled with, you know, like we do have like a Monastrell and we've got a Nero, you know, and part of me is like, maybe we just have, you know, we have the 3 tiers. So it's like Violet Hour, Rayner, Hope Springs Eternal for Shiraz, and then it's Chunto, Rayner, Hope Springs Eternal for Grenache. Yeah, that's what we're known for, right? That's the 3 tiers, and then the Rosé is and the Chardonnay and the Fiano. They're our white wines. Yeah, you know, that's their own little category, but that's it. Yeah, and that's it. That's all we do, right? And then you know, maybe Hope Springs Eternal has a few different sites in it other years, but really, you know, it's that core offering that never changes. It only gets better. Even here at Rayner, we're busy pulling out old vines that have too much UDIP, planting new vines that are more appropriate, Grenache mostly. So it's just trying to make those core ones better. Yeah. Not get bigger. I think we're happy with where we are. But to keep me interested and keep us fresh, in people's minds too. We've got these other wines coming that are, I think we have the confidence that we can do.
Yeah.
They're more high end. So
exciting, mate.
Yeah.
And then just got to get the cellar door happening. And then I know what you said before, you really want to just run a cellar door. That's the...
Well, we've got one. We've got one.
Sorry, you do have one.
We do have a cellar door.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have one here, but
Yeah.
it's a bit of a pipe dream at the moment.
Yeah.
It's an expensive process, but this is one of the sites that we'd considered. These guys can't see, but it's 360 views of McLaren Vale, more or less.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have something here, and with our small cellar door that we share with Shiraz and Lino Ramble, it's been amazing, like having somewhere for people to come. Often been recommended, or different drop drinkers.
Of course, mate. Of course.
And I think if we had our own, it'd be even better, because we could, properly brand it as ours and give people the full Bondar experience.
Well, mate, we love the full Bondar experience. It's been awesome to watch the whole journey with you and Selina, and watch these wines just keep getting better and better, and new introductions every year or two. Like, I think what you've done amazingly well is combine all this detail and single side expressions and stuff, the intellectual side of it, with just a lot of joy. The wines taste great, they look great, they're priced great, they're just easy to love, and that's reflected in how well they sell, at least for us. So no, we love it, mate, and love working with you guys. So
thanks.
Well done. I reckon we need a beer, and
There's a beer.
just a beer or two or three. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's do it.